Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Starting with the great name of Allah, who is the most merciful and beneficent. My name is Abbas Rahman, and today I'm going to discuss with you guys the important topic of networking, which is NAT. It stands for Network Address Translation, and basically it solves the two major problems we are facing in the networking. The first problem is that it overcomes the shortage of IP addresses. Using NAT, we can translate of thousands of IPs addresses. When they go onto the internet, they are just registered with one public IP. And the other problem that it will solve us, that it hide the internal IP addresses as well. So when we go on to the internet, we are just registered with one public IP, so it also hide the internal IP addresses. And now we want to come towards the types of NAT. The first type of NAT is static NAT. It doesn't reduce the number of IPs because we have to register one private IP with one public IP, and as well as we have to do it manually as well. And the another type of NAT is dynamic NAT, and there's not a huge difference between static NAT and dynamic NAT, but in dynamic NAT the mapping is done automatically, and as far as the IP, the private IP is registered with one public IP. So there's not a huge difference between static NAT and dynamic NAT as far as concern of mapping is done automatically. Now the third type is important type, and it solves the problem, which is PAT, port address translation. So it solved the problem where the thousands of IPs are registered with one public IP. It saves the public the public number of IPs required for users. Almost 60,000 private IPs are can register with one public IP. So it also allows the services. Each and every services will be differentiated based on the port numbers. For example, we have the private IP ranges from 192.168.1, then 192.168.1.2, then .1.3.1.44. So and these all are registered with one public IP, that is 50.1.1 and .1. So for the first private IP, which is 192.16.1.1, the port number will assign it to, for example, 2000, and for .1.2, which is also registered with one public IP, and that is 50.1.1.1, and the port number for this private IP will be 2002, and so on. So it allows the services based on the port numbers. So here in this video I'm going to start with static NAT. I will take first of all two PCs. This is 0, PC1, then two switches, then two routers, and then we have to use the two servers. There we go. Making now the connection. We'll select the wire automatically for us. Okay, the wiring is done. Now we have to give the configuration in the giving the IP addresses to PC0. I'll give the IP address of 193.168.1.3 of class C. and now we have to gain the subnet mask, sorry, the default gateway 192.193.168.1. okay, to save the time we have to copy this, then paste it here. I'll give it the 193.168.1.4 to this PC. You press, and as for the default gateway is .1. okay, I'm going on to the router 0 configuration. The both of the PCs are connected with fast Ethernet 0 of 0 of the router 0. So the default gateway was 193.168.1.1. so here I have give it. Now on the fast Ethernet 0 by 1, I will give the IP address of 194.168.1. okay, here it is connected I think with fast Ethernet 0 by 0. So we will give the IP address 194.168.1.3, and here on fast Ethernet 0 by 1, and the both of server are connected with this fast Ethernet 0 by 1. So I will give the IP address of 195.168.1.1. okay, now you can come to the server IP config. okay, 195. There we go. Copy this. Subnet mask, and the default gateway was .1. okay, copy this. Save the time. Just copying this and directly paste on the IP configuration of these routers. Give it to 105.168.1.5. okay, and we have the default gateway 195.168.1.1. now we will come into router 0 CLI. Enter this exact from here. Now we have to apply the static NAT. So first of all I will give the IP NAT inside source. We are using static NAT, so we will give static IP NAT inside source static. The first IP, the private IP on PC0 was 193.168.1.3. so we will assign the public IP to this PC0 private ID of 60.1.1.1 of class A. Enter it. We have also another PC, so we will give another public IP whose IP address is 192.168.1 and what was .4. okay, so we will assign the public IP to this of class A 60.1.1.3. Where is the mistake? Okay, I didn't define the source, which is static. So there we go. So the IP NAT inside source static. I'll just copy this, paste it down here, enter it. Okay, so the static NAT have been applied. Now we will also tell them that which is our inside and which is our outside. So the packet flowing from PC0 towards server 1 is to router 0. So this port, which is I think fast Ethernet 0 by 0, is inside port of this and this port from which the packet is outgoing is fast Ethernet by 0 by 1. So we have to tell in that as well, IP NAT in device fast Ethernet 0 by 0 by 0 by 0 is or inside IP NAT then we have also tell him the outside interface as well, which is fast Ethernet 0 by 1. So IP NAT outside. There we go. We have applied successfully static NAT. Now the next step is to do static NAT routing, static routing. So how we apply the static routing? We give IP route command, and the network which I have been used on the right side, on this side, which was 195, so I will use it here, tell him there 195.168.1.0, and what is the subnet mask of this network. I have used the class C network, so the subnet mask of class C is 22255.0. now on this third step, I will give the next hop. What the next hop? The next hop is basically this router 0 is connected with router 1 through which port? It's connected with fast Ethernet 0 by 0. So what is the IP address? Is on fast Ethernet 0 by 0, which is 194.168.1.3. so we have to give it here 194.168.1.4 was 4 or 3. Sorry, it was 3. I'm just a little bit confused. So .3, enter it, and as for verification that our static routing has been applied or not, so we will come here, static, yeah, it has been successfully applied. Now we will come on to router 1 and applying the static routing. Exit from here, again same step, IP route. Now here we are applying the static NAT, so we do not tell him the network which we used on the left side, which was of 194, because it has been private, and we have applied the static NAT. And what was the public IPs of these for these private addresses was of, I think, 60.1.1. so these private IPs are being identified through this public IP, which is 60.1.1.1. so we will here use the network of 60 of class A. So the network of class A 60.0.0.0, and the default subnet mask of this is 1 time 255 and 3 times 0. So it's become 255.0.0.0, and again on the next hop, so this router 1 is connected with router 0 through fast Ethernet 0 by 1. So what is the IP address of 40 0 by 1, which is 194.168.1.1. I simply copying from here and paste it down here and enter it. Check it, the static routing has been applied or not. There we go, successfully applied. Now what we gonna do now, from here PC0, I will give the IP address of the server, which is 195.168.1.3. there we go. It's shown the positive result. So we have successfully applied static NAT. Now again on router 0, I will come here, exit from here, exit also from here. Now I will give a command that show me the IP NAT translations. There we go. There is the whole summary of this story. That there we go. We have the inside local, which is our private IPs of these two PCs, and here these private IPs is been known with this public IP, which is global for this whole network, which is 60.1.1. there we go, 60.1.1. then for this PC the IP was 60.1.1.3, and we then on this side we have outside global and outside local. There is nothing private in there, everything has been same. We are using the server, and for this service for this PC we have assigned the port number of 1026, and for this PC we have assigned the port number of 1025. So that was static NAT. It was very simple. And now next we're gonna apply the dynamic NAT. So now we're going to discuss the dynamic NAT. I have removed the static NAT from this network. We're going to use the same network. So I already told you that the dynamic NAT is not been different from static NAT. Perhaps the mapping is done automatically. So we're going to start with dynamic NAT. I will use first of all access access list ECL, and I will give him the number. So here in dynamic NAT we will tell the range of our private IPs with the help of this access list number 4, and there can be any number instead of 4. We can give the number, it ranges from 1 to 99, so I'm using 4. So now I'll tell him the network of private IPs, which is 193.168.1.0. and another thing is that we have to subtract the subnet mask of class C from the subnet mask of 255.255.255.255, which is the subnet mask in which we are using the all 4 octets. So on removing, we get the subnet mask of this 0.0. Dot 255. Okay. Oh, sorry, there is an error because I'm going to use the permit access list 4. There we go, permit. Now I will copy this, paste it down here, enter it. Okay, first step has been done. Now in the second step, I will create a pool with a name IP NAT pool, and I will give him the name of NAT. NAT. Then I will also tell him the range of public IP. So the range of public IP will be 60.1.1.1 to 60.1.1 to .9 in this case. And then I will tell him the subnet mask of my private IPs. I have used the private IP of class C, so the class C subnet mask is 255 and at last .0. Oh, sorry, I didn't tell him about the NAT mask. Just give him that NAT mask, copy, paste. There we go. Now, and the last step, we will do the mapping. So mapping the access list for the private IPs, and the pool was for the public IPs. So I will write their IP NAT inside source or list. What was the name of the list? Was 4. And then pool, what was the name of the pool? It was NAT. So okay, we have applied the dynamic NAT. Now at the last step, we will apply we will tell him the interfaces. Interfaces was same interface fast Ethernet 0/0 0/0, which is our IP NAT inside interface exact. Then we will tell the outside interface as well, which was fast Ethernet 0/1 IP NAT outside exit from here. And at last we will apply the static routing. We will give him IP route, and what was the network we will use on the right side. It was 195.168.1.0. and what is the subnet mask of this network of class C is 3 times 255 at last .0. Oh sorry, I didn't give him the spice. Remove from here. There we go, paste to now. And what was the next hop or the router 1 of this one on the right side of router 0? It was 194.168.1.3. It gives us an error, so we will check that why it gave us the error in the network 195 and then the subnet mask. Oh sorry, this one was extra, still a little bit mistake, leads us to an error. Let's copy that, pass it down here. There we go, check it. Yeah, static routing is being applied. Now come here on router 1, enable and config, then tell him the routes IP route. So again, on the right side you will not use the network of this because this is as far as private. So we will use the network which I have created the pool of public IP, and it was started from 60 so range was on 60. So I will give him this network of class A6, which is 60 and 3 times 0, and the subnet mask is 1 time 255.0.0.0, and again the IP address on the left of router 1, which is 194.168.1.1. there we go, enter it, check it, successfully applied the static routing. So the job is been done. Now we have to check here, sorry, and I'll go on to the web browser. 195.68.1.3. yeah, successful. Again on this one, web browser 195.168.1.5, I think was, yeah, there we go, show the, yeah, successful. Now come on to router 0 CLI, exit from here, then what show us the IP NAT translations. There we go. So there we go. Inside local, same IPs of 193.168.1.3, and the private IP of the another PC was 193.168.1.4, and the pool has been assigned to this IP. Private IP is 1027, and for this 1025. so here the global IP, the public IP for this private addresses was 60.1.1.1 and 60.1.1. so nothing same, nothing difference between static NAT and dynamic NAT as far as the mapping is done automatically. So this was dynamic NAT. Now we will move on towards our next type, which is port address communication. Now PAT. So PAT is port address translation, the important type of NAT, and it gonna help us to solve the problem. Thousands of private IPs gonna register with one public IP. So here you're gonna start on router 0 CLI, enter it, exit from here, there we go. So the syntax of port address translation is same as just like we have used on dynamic NAT. So I will use access list with the name this time 5. In dynamic NAT I have used access list with name 4, using 5 here. And now we're gonna tell him the private IP's network, which is 193.168.1.0, and also the subnet mask of class C from the subnet mask used for 4 octets. Sorry, 3 times 2. Oh, sorry, again I missed it. The permit access list 5 permit. Here we go. Copy this. Pass it down here. Okay, first step is being successfully complete. There we go. Now again we will create a pool, IP NAT pool. with the name park. Okay, pool for public IPs. So here the public IP should be same because we are trying to register the private IDs with one public IP. So I will use the public IP of class A, which is 89.1.1.3, 89.1.1.3. so we have used the one public IP, so there will no range, and the range is same from 89.1.1.3 to 89.1.1.3. and here what will be the net mask. So we are using the single public IP, so sorry, the same public, the same range for the public IP. So the net mask will be of 4 octet, which is 4 times 255 dot 255. okay, then enter it. Okay, second step is successfully applied. Now I will on the third step we will mapping. So IP NAT inside source list, and what was the name of the list? It was 5. okay, and what was the name of the pool? It was park. And we will use here another term, which is overload after the pool name. There we go. So pipe is being successfully applied. Now in the second step we will do in the fourth step we will do tell him the interface fast. Okay, interface fast Ethernet by 0/0 is IP NAT inside. Exit from here. We'll tell him the another interface fast Ethernet 0/1, which is IP NAT outside. Okay, exit from here. Successfully completed the fourth step, telling him the interfaces, which is inside and which is outside. And at last now we will apply static routing. So IP route, the network in the right side is 195.168.1.0, and the subnet mask, this is 255.255.0, and the IP on the right of the on the right side of router 0 of router 1, the IP is 194.168.1.4. yeah, check it. There we go, successfully applied. Now come on to router 1 CLI, enter it, exit from here. Here we go, give the IP route. So again we are applying here port address translation, and I will give you again reminder that the 1000 of private IPs will be registered with one public IP. So here I'm not using 1000 of private IP, I'm just using 2 PCs, so I have 2 private IPs registered with one public IP. So I'm gonna not tell him the address, the network of private IP, but rather than I gonna tell him I will tell the public IP network, I have used the public IP network of 89. I think it was 89 of class 1. So give him 89.1 dot sorry dot 0 0.0. It is the class A, and the subnet mask at 255.0.0, and the IP address of router 0, which is on the left of router 1, is 194.168.1.1. oh sorry, 2 times dot, so it gives us an error. Again, I have typed it IP root 89.0.0. From here I'm gonna copy it, paste it down here. Oh sorry, I didn't give in the spice. Now with spice, paste, there we go. Check it, apply or not. Yeah, successfully applied. Now come on to PC0 web browser using the services of HTTP. Give him the IP address of server 195.168.1.3. Takes so much time. It's not working. I think I have given the, yeah, it's been correct. Here we go. Facing an error. One 95.168.1 dot. So we are facing an error here, and what is the error? So here was we have a slight error which create us a problem for us. The IP address of router 1, which is on the right side of router 0, was 194.168.1.3, and here we have write it give us the wrong IP address of router 1. We have give the .1.4, so make correction here. It is not .1.4, it is .1.3. Now we're gonna come here. Now we will give him the IP address of the server 195.168.1.3. There we go. So it correctly transfer the file and access it again from here, from PC1 195.168.1.4. this time the IP address of server 1. There we go, successful. Now we will we will check it from here. Come here in CLI, exit from here. Okay, show us the IP NAT translations. There we go. So what is happening here? We have the inside local. There's 2 PCs of 193.168.1.4 and 193.168.1.3. so the IP address, which is the public IP address for both of these 2 private addresses, is same. It is 89.1.1.3. so Here I have used just 2 PCs, and in the real world there will be thousands of private IPs addresses, and which going to be registered with this one public IP. So we have successfully applied these NAT, network address translation, and all 3 types has been successfully applied. And thank you to you all guys.